Have you ever wondered what to do with an underperforming admin or an underperforming front desk? Do you just keep training them? Is it time to hire a new one? Or do you just kind of deal with it and kind of let the underperformance happen, right? So in this video, I'm going to cover three things. One, I want to teach you exactly how I like to teach and train any admin that we've worked with or our team of remote admins. Number two, what KPIs should you use to actually measure success for the front desk? Number three, I'm going to show you exactly what I use to determine whether it's time to move on from a front desk staff member or I want to stick it out and continue to train them. And so this is actually the exact strategy that we have used with over 50 practices at this point across multiple disciplines. And recently, our practice that we worked with our client, Austin Manual Therapy, where we actually trained their existing front desk team and they added $30,000 back to their practice after we trained their front desk team. So this is such a common problem. The front desk is a high turnover position. It's hard to find good quality talent. Everybody thinks they want to make more money, and oftentimes practice owners are scared to have the hard conversations, or they're scared to actually implement some change, or oftentimes just too busy to implement change. And I want to give you some very easy, tangible things to take away from today. Maybe one or two things to measure and actually get you guys moving in the right direction, so that you have a sense for what it is you need to do. So, number one is, hey, we need to be able to know how to actually teach and train and listen without micromanaging our front desk, right? If you micromanage the heck out of your front desk, you can guarantee you're going to have high turnover. Or on the flip side, if you don't do anything at the front desk, you don't spend any time with them, you can almost bet that you're going to have an underperformer because you're not actually training them like they need to be trained. So that's the big thing here. So my simple and easy way that I like to teach and train front desk staff is the bottom line, you got to have regular meetings for you to actually listen. And some of you guys you'll set meetings because you're freaking out about numbers or you're freaking out about something not going well, and you just start meeting with them regularly, or once or twice sporadically, I mean, and you just try to train them and you just ram a bunch of information down their throats and you never actually follow up with them again. And the problem with that is now they grow to resent you every time you actually do some training with them, or you don't actually get any change at all, which is actually a pretty major issue, right? And now you just think that they're an underperformer, and really the reality is you didn't have enough kind of boots on the ground, right? And what I mean by that is I've listened to a lot of content from Alex Ramosi. Many of you guys may have done that as well, especially if you're into the business realm. And he has this phrase that says, you have to know where the bodies are buried. Right. And what I mean by that is you need to be in proximity with the problems or the challenges of especially the front desk. And if you're not aware of those problems and challenges, then you're too far away. And you either need to hire somebody that can get a little bit closer to that, or you personally need to spend it if you don't have the time or you don't have an office manager, somebody else could help you manage that piece. And what I like to do, very, very simple, I set regular meetings, especially when I'm onboarding a brand new admin. I like to have weekly meetings with that person so that they have a clue as to what's going on. I can actually sit and I can actually listen to them. I can just get a sense for what problems and what challenges they have. And if I can sit and I can listen and I know exactly what problems or challenges that they have, then now I can design solutions to that. And that front desk is going to feel way more seen and heard when they're actually having conversations with you, as opposed to you having a conversation with them once every 2 months, or it's a hey, how you doing? And then when they leave, you're shocked. You're not going to be shocked that they're leaving or underperforming if you actually sit and just listen. And that's one of the biggest things I do is I just want to find out what they're struggling with, what challenges they're having, what would help make their job easier. These are all questions that you can ask and be a part of on a regular meeting cadence, or as you guys reach a really solid point, maybe you start spacing that out. But if you don't spend any time in proximity with that person, you're going to have a hard time leading them. There's going to be a hard time having change. And you have no idea if this person is going to rise to the occasion of the challenges that you're giving them. Because if they're not going to rise to the challenges, then certainly we need to think about letting that person go. But some of you guys, you'll just deal with the underperformance thinking, this person is, you know, just that's just who they are, right? And you'll deal with the underperformance, but you actually haven't spent any time teaching and training. Now, on the teaching and training front, I like to listen. And then what I like to do is I like to either create something, either video or written, probably some combination thereof, because everybody likes to learn a little bit differently. And then I create solutions to the problems or challenges that they're having, right? And then now I've got a living document written, likely video as well. And then now that front desk can go back and refer to those things, especially if you get a new one in the future. And that sets the expectation for, hey, here's what we're going to do around here. I need to make sure that that's actually the case, right? Set regular meetings, design, create some stuff, and then have them regularly go through that content, right? If they're having challenges, just block some downtime for them as well. That's the other big thing is I like for someone to see one, do one, teach one, right? So they can see me do it or someone else on your team. They can actually do it. They can go back and refer to any things that you've written or done. And then ultimately, what they can do is they can actually teach it to somebody else. Maybe they teach it to you or they teach it to someone else on the team. And when somebody can teach something, they know it to the next level. And it's a really great frame for someone actually knowing what to do. So once you've met with them regularly, you know exactly what it is that the problem is or what the challenge is and how you can actually help them. Then at that point, we need to actually start tracking some stuff at the front desk. Now, some of you guys track some basic numbers, revenue, total visits, and like you kind of just leave it at that. Some of you don't track anything, especially at the front desk. And there's two big KPIs that I want you to measure that will really help you look at the success of your practice. Now, what I do is I actually have my admin report these numbers to me weekly, and that acts as a guiding point for them and a every single week, and it helps me keep a pulse on what's going on so that I don't get 2 months down the road realizing, oh crap, we have a problem here, right? So, first big thing, schedule utilization. What is schedule utilization? It basically just means how full is the schedule, and it puts an actual number on it. Now, why is that helpful? That helps me know, okay, great, we're actually scheduling new patient evaluations that are coming in, we're managing cancels, reschedules, and we're keeping people on the books, and people aren't just falling through the cracks on a regular basis. Now, you're going to get seasonal flow. November, December, things tend to slow down, especially in our cash practice. But overall, that number should be pretty steady. And that helps you make guiding principles of, hey, when should I hire? Do I need to bring on somebody else to help me get where I want to go? And you simply measure schedule utilization by taking your what is your total visit seen versus what's available. So let's say you as a provider can see 100 visits and last week you saw 75. 75 divided by 100, 75% utilization. And you want to monitor that over a period of time. So as opposed to you making a gut decision of, well, how full is the schedule? You actually know that information to an absolute T. And when you know that information to a T, again, you have a good pulse on what your front desk is doing and is the schedule staying full because that's what the front desk is designed to do, right? It's keep the schedule full at whatever cost. Now, that's the first big metric I like to look at. The next one is actually total leads versus total evaluations scheduled. Now, it depends on the type of traffic that you're running, whether you're running cold leads like Facebook and Google versus you just got a very high organic referral basis. Obviously, that the warmer clients, I would expect this number to be even higher. But generally, for our practice, we have a pretty decent mix, almost a 50-50 mix of paid traffic through Facebook ads versus organic website SEO, some of those kind of things. We typically shoot for 55% of our leads to actually schedule evaluations. So if I've got, let's say 100 leads that actually came in, I would basically, and I had 55 evals that month, 55 evals divided by 100 of the leads that we got would give me 55%, right? And so that's how you ultimately find that percentage. And again, this also lets me know is speed to lead there. Are we actually talking and having the right conversations with patients? Um, are they actually showing up to the clinic? Because if they're canceling and no showing, then certainly that's also going to pop up on schedule utilization as well. But it helps me keep a pulse on what is the new what are the new eval, the new patient flow look like in my practice. Because if you have the same numbers, but maybe you're getting more leads, maybe we're not actually having effective either we're not getting to them quick enough, you need to think about hiring another front desk at that point or doing some training with them. Or maybe we have a high cancel no show rate, even though we've got more leads coming in, my schedule utilization staying the same. However, I'm spending more money on ads and I'm not having more evals, right? And so that's a big problem and a challenge that we ultimately want to overcome. Those are two big metrics. I would 100% start tracking those as soon as you hang up from this video here, is to get in, get schedule utilization, and lead to eval conversion. That's going to be a big one. Now, the last big piece of this is I need to know, when is it time to move on from a front desk? Or when is it time to continue to train and invest? Because that's the million-dollar question. It's costing you a lot of money to have an underperformer, but it's also costing you, it could cost you a lot of money in turnover as well. And so we need to make sure we're making the right and the wise decision here. And so if I've done regular meetings, I've tracked numbers, I've had conversations with them, then ultimately I need to know how well it is that they're taking the feedback. Are they taking the feedback and are they actually growing? Or are they taking the feedback and then it's just like a brick wall on the other side? And in fact, I like to finish a lot of my meetings with somebody who's kind of in this position where I say, hey, this is the expectation as far as like lead to eval or schedule utilization or whatever number you want to look at. Hey, this is our expectation. Do you think you are going to be able to meet that standard? And I kind of put the ball in their court, because it's funny because people oftentimes, when they know they're doing not a great job, they'll simply let you know. Like, we had an admin who just wasn't doing great for us, and I had a conversation where I was like, "Hey, this is kind of the ultimatum. Do you think you can meet that?" And she pointed out, said no, right? And she was just like, "Hey, I think it's probably best that that you guys find a new admin." Great, made the conversation way easier than I thought it was, and this is after us having multiple conversations with this person, and it ultimately, I was scared to have the hard conversation, but once we had the hard conversation, they knew exactly what was going on as well, and they kind of self-disqualified. And that's oftentimes what happens here. I like to put the ball back in their court. Hey, this is the expectation. Do you feel like you can do it? Now, if you've been micromanaging them, that's going to push them further away. So you got to certainly be gentle, read the room here a little bit. But having those tough conversations, putting the ball in their court, will absolutely be the piece here. And then I'd set a date in mind where I say, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to recheck this number and we're going to see how we're doing and we can make some decisions there. And they're either going to rise to the occasion. That's who you want on your team. And if the change isn't happening, then ultimately you need to move on from this person. But if you don't set any expectations, you don't set any hard deadline, either by date or by performance, this person will continue to underperform. And that's the last thing that you want to have happen, because it's costing you a lot of money to have somebody who's an underperformer. It can certainly cost you a lot of money in turnover if you're not spending any time where they are. Regardless of the fact, teach them, train them, spend some time with them, know where the bodies are buried, right? Get some KPIs on board so that you can actually measure what change needs to happen and what's happening at the front desk from week to week. And then lastly, how do we know that this person you need to move on to, are they going to arise to the occasion or the task or the deadline that you've set for them, and put the ball in their court and ultimately see where how they respond to it. And if they're not responding, they're not changing, then you have your answer. It's time to move on. And I would give somebody no more. If I've had multiple conversations, I wouldn't give them more than 2 to 3 weeks, because the quicker you can make the decision, the quicker you can move on. And sometimes it's just a week. We've had this conversation a lot. And so set that deadline, have the hard conversations, and that's going to move you in the right direction. So if you will carry forward in several of our other trainings, now that you know how to handle an underperforming admin, first step is to train them and lead them right. I've got a lot of videos and modules created towards that. Would love to see you on the inside of that training.